Firefighters responding to a fiery plane crash at Bradley International Airport in Connecticut. The airport, located just outside of Hartford, confirmed the accident moments ago. It's not yet clear if anyone has been hurt. The FAA says it's a vintage Boeing B-17 that crashed at the end of the runway at around 10 this morning while attempting to land. The airport has since been closed and flights have been canceled. Joining me now to talk about this is former NTSB Chairman Mark Rosenker. Mark, thank you for joining us. We appreciate it as always. I guess the first question, as we wait for more news from the authorities at Bradley International Airport, is what are the procedures and the next steps that the FAA will undertake?
Well, right now we're talking about a serious issue in that something which happened only about 90 minutes ago, and a number of those that were part of this accident may well be in the hospital and be examined for a total examined from the program itself.
Right, and so and typically when something like this happens, this is a vintage plane. It's a vintage World War II aircraft. We don't know where it was headed, but I'm guessing that the FAA, given that it's a U.S. plane, given that it's at an American airport, is going to be on the scene to try and figure out exactly what happened.
Absolutely. We're talking about an airplane that potentially, should it have had crew itself, we may have seen 8, 10, and then we may have had some additional riders themselves. But we're going to learn exactly what happened here, exactly the number of passengers that were on board, that were watching the way the operators were working here. But still, we're still so early here. Only 90 minutes since the actual accident itself occurred. They can't really tell us very much, although I do understand several of them have been taken to the hospital.
Let me ask you this, Mark. I know that you are an officer in the Air Force Reserves, and I'm curious, and maybe you know the answer to this. Generally, these old World War II era, these World War I era vintage aircraft, generally war aircraft, are they typically flown, for example, at air shows by Air Force and military pilots, or are they flown generally by civilian, or a combination?
Well, mostly right now we're talking about an airplane that was almost 80 years old, potentially, at least between 75 and 80. We just don't know specifically when this one was built and, in fact, stopped flying for the government essentially. Remember that this is a 1940 or so aircraft of a craft that was operating within the United States Army Air Corps during that period of time when, in fact, it was being examined during the war was going on.
Right, but I mean like right now, today, like when we see these planes at air shows, oftentimes they are at commemorative air shows, commemorating, for example, just recently we celebrated, or at least we memorialized, when you call celebration the right word, but we memorialized the American and the Allied landings in Normandy, on June 6, 1944. And so when we have those big moments where there are air shows where vintage aircraft appear today in modern times, are they flown by civilians, or generally are they military pilots that are still piloting them, today?
No active Air Force at all.
Okay.
Would be flying an airplane that's about 70, 80 years. That's really what we're talking about here. But that doesn't mean that say a group of people that have purchased an aircraft like this and have bought it together as a group that are using them, but they're not official Air Force or U.S. government operators.
Got it. All right, Mark Rosenker, thank you so much for your expertise as always. We appreciate it.